In this video, I'm going to talk to you about features. Features are what you see that are not rides, that are not shops, but they are decorative elements inside of the theme park. In the game theme park from 1994, there are in total 19 different features, and they are all represented here in the Lego version, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. In the specific version of the game I have, which is the one for PlayStation from 1995, there are actually two versions of everything, or nearly everything, as you will see. A 2D version and a 3D immersive version. So this is really early 3D stuff. And I'm going to compare that to what you see here in Lego. Mainly I have tried to model things after what you see in the 2D versions of it. And when I show you the 3D versions, you can hopefully understand why. So let's get started looking at those features, and I'm taking them in the order that they appear in the wiki. If you want to read more, you can see it on the page that I have linked below. So on that list, the first thing are the lamps, these Victorian style lamps. And as you can see, it's a fairly simple design. You might also have spotted them in the layout for quite a while, because it has been a while since I designed and built them. I have 5 of these in total. In the top you can see this element that splits into 4. It was originally used for palms inside of sets like Paradisa from the middle of the 90s. And here it is in black, where I can use it to hold these 4 robot arms that hold onto the light bulbs, which are glow-in-the-dark faces from some Harry Potter set. And if you look at the 2D asset, you can see it's fairly accurate, while the 3D version is, well, I think there are some issues with how 3D is rendered, because this is what it looks like in the game. Moving on. The next on the list would be the Berg tree. This is not a Berg tree, or at least a Berg tree doesn't usually look like this, but this is what it looks like in the 2D asset in the game. And the 3D asset is fairly pretty compared to what you saw the street lamps just a second ago. The design I'm using here in Lego is fairly simple. It's mainly centered around Dalek bricks, so these 1x1 bricks with studs on 4 sides, and then these plant stems with 6 stems in order to make sure that the tree can hold these little green leaves. The plant stems are in this dark orange color, because that makes the stems look a bit more visible compared to using green versions that you will see I have used in other trees later. Features can also be something like the fences. You can see the fence here at the merry-go-round, and also back there with the plain flyer. But let's start with the tree stump fence, which is here at the merry-go-round. And as you can see, it is a modular design that I can take out and put in different places here. I also have other sections here not in use that can be put in. Should I want to have the fence be a bit longer or be placed differently, then that can be put in. And as you can see, as in the game, at the ends they go a bit down, and otherwise it's a super simple design. And when we look here at the white fence, which I use here on the plain flyer, it's a very simple design as well. Almost just standard pieces from Lego that are used here for the white fence. I don't have this many of them, so it's just a small decorative supplement to the plain flyer. And what is fun about these two things is that they look fine as 2D assets in the game, but take a look at the 3D versions here, and you can see they are missing. And that is the case for all kinds of fences in the game. They are simply missing in the 3D versions. That is also something that you will see happening for the last two when we get to those. But there are some other features first, because between all of the fences we have the apple tree and the orange tree. The apple tree you see here is very notable because it doesn't have any apples. Actually, I thought this rose bush in the back was the apple tree when I just looked at the assets, but this is what it looks like in Lego, here in 2D and in 3D. It is fairly similar in design to the Berg tree, except instead of just using the Daleks and the leaves with 6, in the top I also have a leaf stem with 3 stems in order to give it this more fluid design. I don't know how visible that is, but I think it helped compared to what you see with the more rounded shape of the other trees. And then we have the orange tree, so here with the parasol chairs, and the orange tree has actual oranges or orange bricks sitting on it. Again, similar design as most of them are, with this stem here with 6 in 5 directions, and then a lot of leaf pieces to make it look like an orange tree. Here it is in 2D in the game, and it has a 3D asset in the game. And try to remember what this 3D asset looks like when we get to the rose bush here in a short while. And to show you the castle wall, as you could hear, I just turned the power back on, so some of the spike primes were starting up. But this is the castle wall that you see right here. And why did I turn on power in order to show you that? Well, that's because we have a button here in the top in order to turn on the 9-volt motors back and forth. But we can take a closer look at it here because I have a copy. So this is what it is. It is actually hiding a train power supply. The button here is connected to the big knob on the power supply. So it's really nice to have something inconspicuous where you can actually turn it on. Here you can see it as a 2D asset in the game, and you can't see it as a 3D asset because it's also one of those things that are not being rendered in the video game. Maybe I should have kept the middle in green like you see in the game, but I think it's nicer with not so much green everywhere. And in the same vein as the castle wall, we have the private hedge. As for the private hedge here, it also hides a power supply that we can turn on and stop by pressing these buttons here at the end. It's just a simple leaf decorated box of green, fairly simple, but it looks the part. It's fairly inconspicuous, and that is how I used the features in order to hide power supplies inside of this layout. And of course, here it is in 2D, and it is not present in 3D either. This tree here is called the tropical bush inside of the game. It is a fairly simple palm tree, but there is a separate palm tree, so remember what this looks like when we get to the palm tree. Here you can see it as 2D in the video game and as a 3D asset. And let me just pick it up so you can see it closer. You can see the design is simply copying what you saw in the loop coaster with the palm tree you get in that set, and using some similar parts for that. A fairly simple tree, but it is quite a bit different from the other trees, so I think it's nice and decorative. And that leads us to the rose bush. That is the kind of tree that I have the most of in the Lego version. And as you can see, it is very similar to the orange tree. And if you look at the 2D asset and compare to the one for the orange tree, you can see there's not that much of a difference. If you look at the 3D asset, it pretty much looks like just a bit scaled down version of the orange tree. So I have kept with the design philosophy here in Lego and just made the exact same Lego model. The weeping tree was a fun design challenge here in Lego. As you can see, I have been mixing these normal tree leaves with the seaweed variety kind of Lego part. So here you can see it in 2D in the game and as a 3D asset in the game. And if I take it out here, you can see that I have had a lot of fun trying to make the design as accurate as possible in Lego. So that was a fun little thing to build. Fairly simple building techniques, but still a challenge to make everything fit together and look like in the game. And then we have the palm tree, and as you can see, it's not one tree but actually 2 trees in one. And as you can see, the design is very similar to the tropical bush. And if you look at the 3D asset in the game, then you can see, and even in the 2D asset that you see here, then it seems like they've taken the tropical bush, made it a bit darker, copied it, mirrored it, scaled it a bit, and then pasted it in order to make this asset. So that is what I've also done here in Lego. Copied the design from the tropical bush, doubled it, made one of them mirrored and a bit taller, and then that ended up being this design that you see here. The oak tree is standing here in the middle, and it is looking like an oak tree. You can see it in 2D in the game and as a 3D asset in the game. But let me take it out because there's actually a lot of building techniques going on here. In the top you can see the same building technique as before, with the leaf here that has 6 stems. But then we are making some crosses underneath in order to put the sections of leaves here being turned down just a little bit on an angle, and then having a lot of these crosses of those in order to make the design of this tree look a bit more organic than just stacking a lot of leaves. I think I have to take it apart a bit. Is that possible? Then you can see better how the layers have been made. So that was also a fun design experience to make this tree look like this. The last tree on the list is the spooky tree. It is standing right here next to the haunted house because that is where it belongs. And it is quite a complicated design. Here you can see it in 2D, and it even looks nice, or relatively nice, in 3D. But let's take it out and see what's going on. As you can see, there's a lot of stems going in different directions here in the top, and even in the bottom we have these 4 roots sticking out. And when you look at the bottom down here, we almost have an angry face, a menacing face, and that is what it looks like in the game. Or maybe it looks a bit wider and prettier in the game, but this is the best design that I could come up with in this size. So that is a fun little tree that has been added to the theme park, and it definitely belongs here with the haunted house. One of the more expensive decorative features in the game would be the legs. Here they are in 2D, and in 3D they are, you know the story by now. There's the 1x1 you saw, the round one. There's an end piece here, a corner, a T-piece, and I even have a straight section as well that I can then take out and rearrange as I want so that it fits the layout that is being built. And as you can see, I have some fish from the Chinese New Year set with the koi, and they are decorating the legs here in the Lego version. There are 3 toilets in the game. The first one is the outhouse. You can buy it for 150 credits in the game. I have made a separate presentation a long time ago for the toilets, and not much have changed since then. For the outhouse, I have just changed a couple of pieces here to brown instead of black because they became available on the market in some Lego sets. And as for the outhouse, there is actually a toilet inside. Let's see if I can open the door with one hand. I could not. And then you can see there's toilet paper rolls, and a broken door that I can try to fix with one hand here and just leave it be. Secondly, we have the buggy crabber, and that has actually been updated. If you look at the 2D version of the buggy crabber, it looks like a mess of colors on the side. If you look at the 3D version, you can see that there are actually these pictures here on the side saying that the ladies' toilet and the men's toilet is this direction here, go around the corner, and then you have the 2 doors, and the same thing applies on the other side. A bit hidden here because it's next to the coconut shy, but let me just take this out, and then we can remove the toilet. And here you can see the signs on one side, and on the other side I've also changed the back. It looked like this before, and now it looks like this, because this is what the 3D version of this asset actually looks like in the game. So that was quite an update. As for the last toilets, the super toilets here in the back, there has been no update. I expect to make an update in the future when I get some more rounded parts here for the corners between them, but they are a bit more futuristic than the others, also the most expensive toilets in the game. This is 1995, but they knew it was a bit futuristic, where you don't have to say that it's ladies and gentlemen, everybody can use this toilet. Finally, we have the theme park fountain here, and as you can see, nothing has changed since I made the initial presentation, as one of the very first things I added in this whole project. Here it is in 2D and in 3D. It's not super pretty in 3D, but it's there, and that rounds up all of the 19 features for the video game of Theme Park.